And welcome to the Barry Foster Show, originating from the Ridge Flora Studios in the City of Charm, downtown Avon Park. I'd like to remind you that if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for our program, just put them right here at the in the YouTube comments area. We'll get back to you really quickly. If you'd like to drop us a line, you can get to us at the Barry Foster Show at gmail.com. And check out our YouTube page daily. We try to put up, if we don't have an audio to listen to, we'll try to have a new post up. And subscribe to our YouTube page, please. If you don't know how to subscribe and you don't have a Gmail account, you can just say, how do I subscribe to YouTube without a Gmail account? And there's a little 8-step program you can follow and get through. We really appreciate all our subscribers. And join our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. Over the weekend, we topped 100 subscribers, John.
Hey, there you go. I wonder what that number was.
Yeah, 106 right 106, now. Yeah. But I continued, I got an email the other day or a text message asking, say, how do I subscribe to your YouTube channel? It says I have to have a Gmail account, and I refuse to get a Gmail account. Mm-hmm. So I went to the internet, and I went to Mr. Bing, and I said, how do you subscribe to YouTube if you don't have a Gmail account? And I got a wiki how. And it said a lot of people want to subscribe, but they don't have Gmails. Here's an 8-step thing. You just follow it through, mm-hmm. and you can end up there. So, yeah. Yep. We're getting more and more subscribers, more and more people listening. We're trying to put out a better product as we go along. The last one we had with Jamie Cooper Bateman was a little overdriven. I apologize for that. We dialed it back a little bit now, but coming up in the near future, Corey Greenway, a local musician with the Out of Hand band, who's making it big, and we're going to talk to him. Kaylee Bush, who's lost her crown as Miss North Florida because she refused to sign off on a proviso that transgender men could participate. So we're getting more and more guests in, and as I said, we've started a new segment last week called Consumer and Business Update. We had Randy Ray talking about senior consumer issues, and we have more of that. So we're going to have travel with Sandra and myself talking about our trip to Vero Beach. We're going to have, of course, John and myself talking politics. We're going to have entertainment sections. We're going to have business and consumer update. We have a lot of different segments for this program, a little something for everybody. So, mm-hmm. John, it's good to have you back with us.
Thank you.
Last time we talked about the ICE protests in L.A., and even with all this going on, apparently Donald Trump's ratings are on the rise. Mm-hmm. He's gone from a 46% approval ratio to the 52% approval ratio, and even so, the trade deals are still going. He's going to London on this date, I believe, or his assigns are going there to talk with China. They're very close in London. They're very close in India. And a thing that I found out listening this morning to talk radio is apparently Europe is now beginning to like Trump more as these trade deals begin to flesh themselves out.
Well, I think that, it took time. It's going to take time to get some of these countries to agree, all right, because they don't want to give up that gold, that pot of gold that they get from the United States every year in a waiver trade imbalance and so on. But it's something that had to be done. Somebody had to finally face up and say enough is enough. And Trump is the first president that's taken that on. And so hopefully with his effort and Marco Rubio's and a few others that are in the administration, the front men, if you will, leading the way, that these other countries, and I do think they've got already some kind of a partial agreement with India. Mm-hmm. And I may be on some specific items, but they have a partial agreement with India. And I think the others, and I think he had, I don't know if he's going to have another conversation, but with Xi Jinping this past week, he talked about
the Chinese are going to be meeting in London apparently.
Right, but
neutral site.
We'll see whether something comes out of that, because that's the big kahuna is China.
Yeah,
I mean they've got a massive trade imbalance with us because they sell so much of their stuff in this country, and we sell practically nothing in their country.
Yeah, and it's something that Trump has been complaining about for 3 or more decades. I remember seeing a clip of him on the Oprah mm-hmm. show back when he had short hair, and he was talking about Oprah. You try to sell something in Japan, you can't. Mm-hmm. And as a businessman, an international businessman, he knows mm-hmm. this kind of thing. And And it's not a lot different from NATO, who none of the NATO members were paying their dues, and when he got them all together, I'll never forget, he was making the announcement, and they all looked like the high school senior class, rolling their eyes and laughing and jabbing each other, while the principal got up and said, we finally come to an agreement here. All these guys are going to, and they started paying their fair share.
Yeah, well, I see a story this morning that they were talking about that specific item and whatnot, that the European countries are finally beginning to realize, and what they said, one of the spokespersons there this morning, because of what Putin has been doing and, kind of like flexing his muscles. And now after the destruction of the airplanes by the Ukraine and Russia, Putin just blasted them this weekend and killed a number of folks, but destroyed high-rise apartments. That's what they went after. They don't go after the military installation. They go after the civilian situation, housing, all right, hospitals, and other things that people need to function and whatnot. But so the Europeans, I think, are now getting a little bit antsy with what Putin is doing. And one of their spokespersons that came out this morning said, we need to increase our armaments by like 400%. Okay, our rockets, our drones, whatever, we need to increase it by about 400% because we have not been preparing for something like a confrontation with Putin.
Yeah, and you'll see that, of course, Donald Trump working on the Golden Dome and getting our protection put together. Right. And it's very interesting now that Canada all of a sudden wants to buddy up, because they want to be under this Golden Dome too.
Absolutely.
And I think President Trump has said, well, yeah, we really could sure use it if you would seal off that northern border for us. That would be good, because we are in, and I remember hearing, I think it was Bongino talking about this, maybe it was Tom Trento, about how the Chinese engage in unlimited warfare. There is nothing off the table for them. And they have been sending fentanyl into the United States for years, trying to kill Americans. They've just gotten those two college students with that mold, that fungus that was designed to kill crops. Yep. I mean, they're it's not just a shooting war with them. It's not just troops and missiles and naval ships. It's an unlimited every possible way to attack your enemy. They do through disinformation, through TikTok, for crying out loud. Oh, yeah.
Well, the other thing is, with the advent of drones now, they are so sophisticated, even a little tin horn organization can gather up some drones and arm these things and go out and cause major... Look at what the Ukraine did and how they did that. They drove a semi into Russia, all right, that had a canvas top on the trailer, all right. Inside were the drones that were armed to destroy these airplanes, and remotely, I guess they can trigger these things to, blast off into air and then go over and destroy these airplanes. So these are, and you saw the drones, they looked like they were maybe like 2 feet in diameter or something. They weren't large at all.
I saw a video of a guy who had taken a drone that you could go down to the big box store and buy, okay? And they had hooked it up with a 1911 .45 caliber gun. Okay, it's the standard military issue, if you don't know what a 1911 is. And they had hooked it up, and they had made it where it had a thing that would pull the trigger, and it would shoot. This is some guy who got a gun and a drone and got some little aftermarket parts and put together a drone that he could fly around and shoot people with. And this is just Joe Dirt here. I mean, this is not some high end. Can you imagine the sophisticated drones they have now, like the Ukrainians had, that had that swarming attack? It's like as opposed to a tank rolling down the street, it's a bunch of bees.
Well, it's like when we had some, I don't know, there were some drones here, and we sent some missiles off we sent like a $3 million missile to destroy a $200 drone. I mean, financially, that makes no sense. No. It makes no sense, okay? If I want to go after a drone, I'm going to go after it with another drone.
And the information gathering ability is astonishing, because some of these drones are smaller than a housefly. And they can fly for some number of hours, 4 or 5 hours. They can transmit any signal back to a place where they can get it. And we've heard for years, I have what they call a gimbal. It's a little device that holds your camera steady while you move around. And they say that any video that I take goes through into my phone, and it also goes to China. So if they want to take a look at McKee Botanical Gardens, me using my gimbal, they can see that. But I'm sure their artificial intelligence, which is really something that's able to scan all this video, they can scan 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and find out if there's something of interest there that they want to really look at.
Something I heard this week, and I have not had time to go back and research it to verify that it is correct, and that is that we buy almost all of our solar panels from China. Almost all of them.
Yes.
All right, they control the market. Another situation. But in these solar panels that they're building, they have the ability to shut these off remotely.
Oh, really?
That's what I heard.
That wouldn't surprise me.
That's what I heard this weekend.
That would not surprise me. The technology, we are just being overtaken by technology. Something that's released today, by tomorrow afternoon, they've got something better that's out. And so, yeah, do you think they have some kind of kill switch in there? That wouldn't surprise me a bit.
But I mean, you look at it as the country more and more and more, and look at how many of the massive solar farms they built here in Florida, which it's a sunshine state. I understand that. But if your community is now, let's say, 25% dependent on solar power for your electricity, and the Chinese decide to shut that off, what are you going to do?
And because of that, and because of the lithium they use, I had not realized, because I hadn't bought one, but every Father's Day, Ryobi, the little home tools that I use, has a deal that if you buy 2 batteries, okay, then you get a toy, you get a piece of equipment, for free. So last year I went out and I bought 2 of these big batteries. It was $99. $99 for 2 batteries. Oh, okay, fine. I went and looked at the batteries now. For one of the Ryobi lawnmower batteries, they want $259 for one of those things. Oh, nice. So if you get the mower for free, you're still spending and I'm looking at this. And I thought to myself, that's from all the lithium they're using. Mm-hmm. That's from all this lithium they're using, and these other batteries we have. I don't know if there's no lithium recycling around here that they can take and reuse it again. Mm-hmm. So you have to just. It is overtaking us. It is getting more and more expensive, and they're trying to run the Americans out of money, as well as having control of our infrastructure.
Yeah, but we are so wrapped up with the Chinese. They have us literally by the throat on so many issues and so many items that we are so in deep with them. They can create massive amounts of crime, disruption,
yes.
whatever you want to call it in this country, and do it remotely and never fire a shot. They won't fire a shot. They can just push a few buttons on a computer. Bingo, I'm taking care of that for you.
And that's a scary thing, and that's why, I have been trying to get a hold of the MadeInUSA.com people without success. So I think one thing that we're going to be doing, starting to do, is to take this consumer and business update and find products, daily usable products made in the USA, and get some of those people on to talk about their products. I know that we have these coasters. They're laser engraved coasters. Mm-hmm. They're done by 863 Designs, Thomas Bottoms down in Lake Placid. And on the back, I had some made for the Republican Party with the Trump fight, where the bullet just missed him. Mm-hmm. And it says Highlands County Republican Party, and on the back I had him put 863 Designs, no tariffs, made in the USA.
Right.
And so I think we're going to do that because it's time under this Trump administration. He's going to make it easier and easier for businesses to flourish. And again, he's got 2 years or so. Then the question is, who succeeds him, and will they keep his ideas intact and move to make America a blazing economy again?
I think there's a number of potential candidates on the horizon in 28, but I still think right now, as of today, everybody that I hear talk about that subject says J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
He seems to be the anointed one. That may not be the right word, but the anointed one to replace Trump in 28. But I think you're going to see Marco Rubio. You might see Ted Cruz come back again. Maybe Rand Paul. There's probably a dozen good qualified Republican candidates. Ron DeSantis would be in there.
You'll
yes,
see him,
and so on. So yes,
and they're trying to right now. They're getting ready to pull the trigger and make these guys in some way, shape, or form unpalatable to MAGA people. You know, the MAGA people, they've tried everything to separate them from Donald Trump, and they won't do it.
No.
But his assigns, his successors is a different story. And interestingly enough, it looks like many of these Democrats are now trying to move to the center. You know, that they figured out this far left stuff isn't going to make it anymore. And so I think that they're going to, and it's something that we always see, is they paint themselves as being centrists and moderates until they get in.
Right.
And that's when you begin to see the DEI hires.
Right.
You know.
Well, the other thing is that they are on the wrong side of what everybody's talking about today is 80-20 or 7-30. They're on the wrong side. 80% of the people, even the ones that did not vote for Donald Trump, there's a big portion of those people that want to see the illegal immigration thing fixed. They want it fixed. They agree that, especially a lot of stories that I've seen and read, that there are a lot of the Cubans and that have settled in the Miami area that are totally in favor of what Trump's doing to get rid of the illegals.
Oh yes.
And from other countries in this country also, because those folks, by and large, came here legally. They became legal citizens, not illegal citizens.
From the Mariel boat lift, the original Mariel boat lift, most of them were escaping communism. And it was very much like the Jews leaving to come to America and to come to other countries to escape the Nazis. It was the Cubans coming to escape Fidel Castro and the communist regime there. They are fiercely anti-communist. And they, you know, and nothing is, it's like a reformed smoker. Somebody who's seen communism up close, they want nothing to do with it.
Right.
Whatsoever.
And I think you look at what's happening in this country, it's definitely people that are pushing us towards the Communist Party.
Yeah, and
there's no doubt about it.
And we talked about last program, it looks like a lot of these LA rioters are, paid outside agitators, and it looks like a lot of the agitators are, and Limbaugh talked about this 20 years ago, about how the same people show up for the same kinds of protests. A lot of times they don't know why they're there, and we've seen the videos where conservative commentators will come up and try to interview them. One of my favorites is, well, what is it you don't like about Trump? Well, everything. Well, name one thing. One thing that he's done. Oh, there's so many. I don't know where to start. Well, just start anywhere. It can be the last one on your list. Doesn't matter. Any one on the list will do. Well, then they don't want to talk to you anymore because they don't have anything.
No.
But they just know that they hate him.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, you want to get a bird's eye view of that thought process and that whole thing. Watch Charlie Kirk on college campuses.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Turning point.
Some of these kids are absolutely, they think they're the most intelligent person in the world, but they are brain dead when it comes to what's going on in the real world. They have no, you watch some of these people, and I mean, and they make fun of him, of course, because he's not a college graduate. He said, no, I quit college. I didn't need college. He said, you don't need college either, and so on. But, I mean, you listen to these kids, they have this theory and all of this theoretical education that they've received, and they spout it, and he just destroys them with common sense.
It's what they've been taught in class, and that's why under the last administration, and even the previous to the last administration, they tried to get free college because those are your indoctrination centers.
Oh, yeah.
And they teach these kids, certain things, and the longer they're in school, and they would get better grades by parroting back what the professor says. But then when, Charlie Kirk will, they'll make these statements, and he'll ask them about them. Like, he hates women. Oh, really? Well, what rights have you lost? And you can see that they don't know what rights they've lost, but they know they've lost something. Well, what have you lost?
Right.
And what has he done to make women that he hates women? I mean, like, look at Pam Bondi. Look at McMahon, the head of the Department of Education. Yeah, and he goes through a list of the women, high-powered women, by the way. His chief of staff is the first female chief of staff ever. Right. So he said, so he's got these women. So what women has he done horrible things to? And they can't answer. No. And it's interesting because in that cadre of people that they're gonna be the one that nail him, there's a whole bunch of people who like him, and they laugh and they applaud for him. You know that, and you see that the purple-haired, lip-pierced, they identify themselves very well with their outward appearance. Yep. That when come forward, he systematically just makes them try to justify what they say, and they can't. And so it gives me some hope that in these college campuses there are kids who see what's going on. There are kids, and we have some leaders. Well, and the other in the very near future, we have Kaylee Bush coming up, who is going to be talking about her horrible experience as Miss North Florida. But she also was the head of the Young Republicans. No, not what do they call them? Young Americans for Freedom. And she was the head of the Young Americans for Freedom. A sharp girl. And so I have some hope that these kids that are coming up are not all like that.
Well, if you watch Charlie Kirk, and I've watched a lot of them because it's like comedy, all right? But anyhow, there is probably about 80% of the audience of the students that are there listening, not talking, because he can only interview so many people, but listening. And they're definitely, they clap for him, and when he puts somebody in their place, whatever, it's a lot of cheers and all that. But again, this is another one of those, I think, 70-30, 80-20 issues. And the radicals are the 20%, okay, or the 15%, or the 10%. But they do not control what people in the real world, this is what I keep saying, they have all this theory and all this book education that the professors have stuffed in their head, but they do not have common sense. And that's what most people rely on, common sense, to get ahead and to survive and live. You have to have common sense. You have to know right from wrong. And these kids are so far out, they have no concept of what it is.
And they have been mollycoddled in the schools. And
by their parents.
Yes. And I've seen parents who they don't want to lose their kid, so that they A, allow this to happen, and B, begin to take on those same kinds of ideas because they don't want to, quote unquote, lose their kid. And at some point, these youngsters, when they get out in the real world and they get a mortgage and car payments and get married and get babies, it's amazing how their view of reality begins to change.
Yeah, they say most people hit that when they're about 40. When they're about 40 years old, you realize that my college education, my college background, all of that didn't do me a whole heck of a lot of good in the real world, okay? And they now have come around to thinking, I think I've got to change a little bit about what I've been doing because it's not working.
When I first went to school, there was a columnist for the college newspaper, and he wrote a column called "It's a Good Bet." It's a good bet, and it's a good bet. If you have a girlfriend that's not going to this school, you'll have a different girlfriend by the time of the second semester. And he said, it's a good bet that when you graduate, your job will not be in your major.
No.
And he was right about many of those things. And so, and it's hard. At some point, I have to tell kids that have the purple hair and the piercings, say, look, when I was your age, I was young and stupid too. Okay, I was the guy with the long hair and the bell-bottom pants, and the patches and all that kind of stuff. But once I got out in the real world, you find out that what you would like to have happen and what it actually is happening are two different things. And so it's going to be up to us, and many of the people listening here are not only parents, but they're grandparents. But it's going to be up to us to talk to our grandchildren and tell them, listen, save yourself some time. And I think Charlie Kirk is right that there is a great need currently. If you want to make some real money, go into a trade.
Absolutely.
Be a carpenter, be an electrician, be a plumber, be a truck driver. You want to make some serious money. and maybe do some studies while you're be a truck driver. The last I heard, Walmart was paying $106,000 a year for guys to drive from here to there.
Yep.
You know?
That's true. And whatnot. So it's very, when you look at it, how much good does a real, unless you're going into a specific field. If you want to go into medicine, or you're going to computer sciences, or whatever, where there's a lot of technology involved, okay, that's where you would need your college education. But if you're going to come out with a Bachelor of Arts degree or something like that, basket weaving, God knows what they've got on the curriculum today.
Yeah.
What good is that going to do you in the real world? It's not.
Yeah. You really have to have a target.
You're going to have $50,000 worth of student debt, and you can't find a job.
And you are very, very, very fortunate now because you're not in a shooting war.
No.
When I went to college, my choices were to go to Vietnam or to go to school. And I did not want to be cannon fodder. You know, because I would have been the guy who they marched in front to step on the landmines, so we can lose him, you know. And so I went to college to avoid going to Vietnam. But now we're at peace pretty much everywhere, and so this is a time you can take some time off, get a job, decide what you want to do, and mature, because you may think at 18 that you're mature, not even close.
You're not.
Not
No,
even
you're
close.
Not, no. Something we have not touched on, and I don't know how far we want to go with it, but the feud between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. That has really gotten a lot of publicity. Of course, the Democrats love it. They love it because they think now that they'll win Elon back in the fold and he can contribute billions of dollars to their cause, whatever, and so on. I am really torn with this whole thing. You got the most powerful man in the world, and you got the richest man in the world. And I understand their egos are probably bigger than this room.
Yes.
I understand that. But you got to to me, you have to look at the big picture. And what good is it where you're spending time and emotion and rattling people up over some dispute about the budget and so on? So it's really kind of twisted me up and so on.
I understand Elon Musk's frustration.
Yes.
Because he brought these kids in, and they worked. They were sleeping on the floor. They worked tirelessly to find this waste, fraud, and abuse. And the idea was to get those numbers down. And here you have Congress now with the quote-unquote big, beautiful bill, taking the money that they saved and says, oh, well, we can spend that on this, and we can spend it on that. And as they begin to get rid of the illegals, take the illegals off social services, and they end up having a lot more quote-unquote money than they had before, instead of saving that and paying down the national debt or reducing the size of the budget, they've just decided they can spend it somewhere else. And he is just fit to be tied, and he kind of expects President Trump to get up in his bully pulpit and bang it and go to his American firsters and say, no, we saved this money. Save this money. Do not spend this money. But right now, I think it's the big, beautiful bill versus the rhinos.
Yeah, and it's as of this morning, I heard a little snippet this morning, and they said that it's pretty close right now to be dead in the water because in its current format, because of the spending that's in there. You've got the people that want to cut the spending drastically, and you're right. You got the rhinos in there that no, that's a pet project of mine. I want that $3 million to go there, or whatever. And so you've got that battle going on. Then you got, someone that I really kind of trust is Rand Paul, and he came out right from the outset. He's very fiscally oriented. I mean, he wants to cut the budget to the bone. I agree with that. I would love to see us do that. But on the other hand, in order to get the votes to pass anything and stop from a government shutdown, you're going to have to reach some kind of common cause with what you can do.
Yeah.
Now, in the current form, I think they have to have a certain percentage of the Democrats to vote for it. There's a way, and I don't quite understand all of it yet, but there's a way that they can pass the bill with just a Republican majority. But the problem is they don't have all the Republicans on their side.
It's the rhinos.
Yeah.
It's the rhinos, and I, John, I don't know the answer to this question. It just seems like even if we had all the 80 million MAGA people begin to, and let's say that we're coming to you from Avon Park, Highlands County. Scott Franklin is the representative. I think that if all the MAGA people here just flooded his office, saying you need to, well, it's already gone through the House, but let's say they began to call and go to Rick Scott's office, and just batter him and say, please, 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 cut at least just for now, cut it now and see what happens. It'll sort itself out. It's very much in the same vein as the tariffs. There's going to be some short-term pain over this, but things will even out. You give it a chance here, but the thing is that they need to cut staff, and they complain of, they've cut all these jobs. Well, yeah, because we can't afford them. But it's just, a lot of us have to just kind of gut it up, because if we don't gut it up now and take the hit now, we'll have a depression, and then we will have to take the hit.
Well, the thing of it is, we are at a point now where we're paying half of the money we take in just on the interest of the debt. Half of the money we take in. So if you take in $4 trillion a year, let's say that's somewhere in the ballpark of what the government takes in every year, but we're spending 6 or 7 or 8. So you wonder why we're almost $37 trillion in debt? That's why. Because we're spending money we don't have, and they've robbed everything, including Social Security over the years, to do that. And so you've got all of these programs, the big three, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. All right, you hear all the horror stories, which I don't pay attention to because that's just saber rattling. But in truth, okay, those 3 programs are in serious, serious financial trouble.
Yes.
And if we don't deal with it, nobody's going to have anything.
And personally, just from watching the way Elon Musk is a savvy businessman, the way that Trump is a savvy businessman, and he knows that there's a certain cost of doing business. I don't think that Elon Musk will, quote unquote, go back to being a Democrat. At the worst, I think he would finance a new, more fiscally responsible party, or figure out a way to do things economically that he can't do politically.
Well, the other thing, though, he could take his money, which he's got lots of, okay, and they did say this morning that already his business has started to come back financially.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's now away from the Doge thing in Washington. He's concentrating on his businesses. But anyhow, where was I going with this? But
he might take his money and try to do something more fiscally responsible.
I think what he would probably do is maybe pick out a couple of the Rinos that are budgeting this thing and put money against them.
Yeah.
Primary them if he can, to get them out and get somebody in that's more likable to what Trump is trying to do.
It's going to be an interesting thing to watch, and we're over, but that's okay. One other thing that I'm watching, and I haven't, it's early Monday morning, so I haven't seen what happened over the weekend, but I know that the Florida legislature is apparently very close to a tax cut deal. And the nice thing is that this is not a battle over to whether to raise taxes or lower taxes. It's in the manner in which they are going to lower taxes. And we had Ryan Chamberlain on, if you want to go back and look at that or listen to that interview, about lowering or doing away, actually, with property taxes in the state of Florida, because he contends that in Florida you don't own your property. And if you think you own your property, try not paying the property taxes for a couple of years and see what happens. So he wants to do away with property taxes and find other ways to finance things in the state of Florida. So we're going to watch very closely to see what the Republicans do in the legislature. And again, I think it's going to be up to us as we get closer, and we have people now who will begin to funnel some good guests to determine who are real Republicans and who are the Rinos, and what we can do to get a much more responsible government. That's what it's going to be all about.
Yep.
All right. Well, John, thank you very much. You've been listening to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded on Monday, June the 9th at the Ridge Floor Studios, located in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for our program, please, you can just put them on the Facebook, put them on the YouTube comments section. We'll get right back to you. Tell the almighty algorithm that, yes, we're we're with you. You can check out our YouTube page at The Barry Foster Show. Check it out daily. We always put up new programming on a regular basis, and also we try to put up posts for you as well. Subscribe to our YouTube page. If you don't have a Gmail account, there are ways you can do it without a Gmail account. Check out WikiHow and join our pages at The Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram as we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way. This is Barry Foster, and we'll see you next time.